Black history. According to the public school system, Negroes were brought to America in 1619, forced to work as slaves on plantations until one day this great white man named Abraham Lincoln, he came along and felt bad for the slaves and signed the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, which freed the slaves. But there were still some bad whiteys in southern states that passed Jim Crow laws for segregation. And afterwards, then came more white people that felt bad and then gave blacks civil rights in the 1960s. Then allowed a black man to have the presidential office, whose name was Barack Obama. Now black people are finally equal to whites, and now we can all get along. The end. Now moving on to our English lecture for today. I don't think so. What was your nationality? Meaning, what did you call yourself? Some may say African. Well, Africa is a continent. And in that continent, it's over 50 different countries in there. So which one do you come from? What language did you speak prior to the 1600s? Was it English? It's over 1,500 dialects being spoken in the land of Africa. Pick one. So now, what clothing did you wear? Was it high heels and stilettos? Skinny jeans and Vans? So what food did you eat? Was it hamburgers and hot dogs? French fries and SpaghettiOs? What religion did you partake in? Meaning, who was your God? Was it Christianity and Caesar Borgia? See, the thing is, most of you have no idea about the answer to these questions. You have no recollection to any history prior to the transatlantic slave trade. Now, is that a coincidence or by a random chance? I don't think so. The question is, have you ever asked yourself, why is it that in the public school system that every time the subject of black history, every time it's taught, it always begins in the 1600s and with slavery? Why is that? Doesn't that raise some antennas or spark inquiry? Why is it that the public school system is so committed to revolving black history solely to the past 400 years? Why is that? Is it because of something, or is it because of some deficiency in historical data? Or maybe because there's no history at all prior to the 1600s? Or maybe because, or maybe, I don't know, black people just maybe poof in, I don't know, maybe just black people just poofed out of thin air, sporadically landed on slave ships, and they said, hey, we have a new species here, so let's start putting them all over the world. Maybe that's what happened. Now, the question arises, what is the drawback on this history? Why is this history being withheld? What is the big ideal about it? And the thing is, you have a lot of black people debating about the identity of the black man, of the black race. Who are we? Who are we? And now it has turned into a big confusion. A big confusion. A few people has asked me to elaborate on this topic. And the information that is getting ready to be brought out, Brother Kwame asks you all to please share this video, because there's no telling how long this particular video is going to be on my channel, because they might end up taking it down or so, because this is going to be some very extremely informative information that's getting ready to be brought forth. And you're going to find out why is this information, or why was this information was being held hostage. That's going to be your main question. See, I know this information goes over a lot of you people's heads, but you have to ask yourself, why is this information isn't being revealed? Why isn't it? What is the mysticism about it? People, what are you going to come to realize is that your identity is the biggest kept secret on the planet Earth. I know you thought that the government and the CIA hiding information about UFOs and Planet X and Nubaru and aliens. You thought that was the big information and biggest kept secret. No, this is much bigger than that. The elite Confederate has spent billions of dollars and constructed an innumerable amount of psychological stratagem to ensure that you never received and acquired this information that is about to be brought forth and put out in this video. You are about to receive pertinent information. Join me to the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. Join me to the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. And it says, Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live throughout the flood. He became the progenitor, meaning the father of the dark races. Not, I'm going to say that again, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. Hold on one second. The churches and the pastors, which are set up by the government, they all teach a unison, a doctrine that all black people come from Ham. That's what they teach. They teach that all black people or the dark colored people come from the seed of Ham. But once you open up scholastic sources, you'll find out that the biblical scholars says something totally different from what's taught from Orthodox Christianity. Now, what do they mean by Ham is the father of the dark races, but not the Negroes? The Negroes themselves are a dark race of people. So how can you say that Ham is the father of all these dark races and exclude the Negroes? What are the biblical scholars trying to convey? What the biblical scholars are saying is that you're not an African. There's only 4 families, according to the Bible, that makes up the native population of Africa, or the land of Ham. And the biblical scholars, they know that black people do not descend from any of those 4 families. People, in order to write that, what I just read in a scholastic and academic book, the biblical scholars have done extensive and thorough research on both the so-called Negroes and the Africans. And they came to the conclusion after the extensive research that the Negroes doesn't have anything to do with the native Africans at all. They are 2 totally separate people. Now, people, I'm not against any Africans. Let me get that clear. But what is Brother Kwame trying to convey is that many black people today are starting to turn away from the Bible. And they are starting to turn to these African cultures. That's right, they're starting to turn to all of these ancient African cultures because they feel like we have no identity because we have been lied to for so long, following the Caucasian Jesus, Cesar Borgia. So we know that many black people doesn't read for themselves. So they just turn away from the whole Bible alone and they run to one of these ancient African cultures because they think that was them. They think that's us. Just because we had the same skin tone as the Africans doesn't mean that we were them. In that case, I guess we're Arabs too, because Arabs, a lot of them have skin darker than us. So I guess that's our people too. See, people would tell me, oh, I just know the Bible. No, people. Brother Kwame, he has also studied a lot of those ancient African cultures. And a lot of those ancient African cultures that the black people today are running to, they practice Santeria and they practice voodoo, witchcraft, black magic. And they'll tell you that, oh, this was a good thing that we used to practice back in the days. No, it wasn't, because you conjured up evil, wicked, demonic spirits and killed numerous of people back in the ancient times dealing with that Santeria stuff. But black people today are so ignorant, and I'm not talking about all black people, but I'm saying most of them. They're so ignorant and they think that they're wise, and so they'll go and try to follow this ancient culture of the Canaanites, which most of them follow the one called Kemet or ancient Kemet. That's what most of the black people today are turning to, and that all of that was an ancient homosexual religion that they used to practice out there in the ancient Kemet. If you really dig deep and do your thorough research on this stuff, you'll know. But you're so lost because you're looking for identity. You just follow and believe any and everything, when all of your strong black leaders are right here in the Bible. You never read it. You just turned away from it because of what you used to follow. Keyword, follow. You never read for yourself. That's why you think right now in your head that black people are Africans and that we used to practice those satanic rituals that they practice today and that they practiced in the ancient times. No, we didn't practice that mess. Now let me get back to cutting this black Negroes are the Africans doctrine. In 1840, a guy by the name of Dr. Morton, he was trying to find out the racial origin of the so-called Negroes that were in America in slavery. So he got together with the Egyptologists, which supplied him with the mummy heads. And what he did was conduct an extensive research on the cranial remains of the heads in Egypt, in contrast to the cranial remains of the heads in America. And what he found out was that the Negroes that were in slavery were not Africans. He found out that the skulls were two different types of skulls. The Negroes' heads were longer than the Egyptians' heads. The physical characteristics on the outside looked very similar, with the thick lips and the broad nose. But once you start delving into the real characteristics, you'll find out that they were two totally different people. But what Dr. Morton did discover is that the people that were serving slavery in America, they served the same position and servitude in ancient Egypt when they matched other skulls and other cranial remains in Egypt. They said these are exact matches. So tell me, what are the scholars saying? What you are going to find out that they are saying that you, the tribe of Judah, the black Negro race, are the biblical Israelites. Yes, you are the same exact people that served slavery in the land of Egypt. You're the same exact people that the Most High God sent Moses to go and redeem from the hands of Pharaoh. You are those same exact people. Now join me to the book of the Encyclopedia of the Jewish Diaspora Origins, Experiences, and Culture, Volume 1, page 454. And it says, the decline of the Jewish communities of the West African Maghreb most likely began with the influx of Arab invaders into North Africa starting in 640 CE and later into West Africa in the 1300s and 1400 CE. Okay, so after you had established communities and empires on the west coast of Africa, after the 7th century, that's when Muhammad and his band of thugs came to the west coast with the Quran in one hand and a sword in another one. And they were forcibly converting the Israelites in that nonsense Islam. Yeah, I said it, I'm going to say it again. Nonsense Islam. Because that is not what we were dealing with. That is the Arabs' religion. And we know that the Arabs were praying to other gods. They was praying to the sun. That's what they were doing. And that was the decline of the Hebraic community over there on the west coast of Africa. And that was the forefront of the beginning of the slave trade. And I'm going to show you this in the Bible. Join me to the book of Joel chapter 3 verse 4. Join me to the book of Joel chapter 3, the 4th verse. And the word of the Lord say, yea, and what have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? You see that? Tyre, Zidon, and the whole coast of Palestine, those are all ancient Africans that the Most High God is referring to. Now let's continue to read. Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head. Verse 5, because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temple my goodly pleasant things. Verse 6, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians. Okay, so the Africans got together with the so-called Grecians or the Europeans, and they commenced in selling the Israelites that were dwelling over on the west coast of Africa in slavery. There's your slave trade right there in the Bible. The Africans selling the Negroes over to the Caucasians. Now let's back this up with some history. Join me to the book of Atlas of the Transatlantic Slave Trade, page 1. And it says, both buyers, Europeans, and sellers, Africans, saw the people traded into captivity on the African coast as outsiders. Now, black people, this is not to hate a white man or an African, but the question is, if you were a so-called African, as they call you an African American, which is definitely false, why did the Africans see the black man as an outsider? Because you were some people that had migrated and had approached on their land. They knew that you were not the same exact people. And why? Because the customs that you had, the way you moved, they knew that you were not the same people. They knew that you didn't practice Santeria. They knew that you didn't practice voodoo. They knew that you didn't partake into any of their satanic rituals. They knew that you didn't practice homosexuality. That's why they had no problem commencing in a slave trade with the Europeans. You would be crazy to believe that Africans were selling their own people. Now, that's just crazy to believe. That makes no sense at all. When the Europeans put that in the textbooks, they were using technicalities, saying Africans sold other Africans. They're using technicalities. What they mean to say is native Africans were selling Israelites, the so-called Negroes that were living in Africa. It would be no difference if somebody wrote history 500 years from now and say that there was a slave trade that happened here in America, and say black people got together and started selling white people to the Chinese. If somebody with the same mindset that the Europeans have wrote history 500 years from now, they would say Americans were selling other Americans to the Chinese, when it's two different whole nations of people living in America. You just can't say Americans sold other Americans. Two totally different people. It's the same exact scenario on the west coast of Africa. Man, it's your boy, brother Kwame. This was your real black history, and there's actually plenty more, but I just didn't have too much time to dig into all of the texts, because it is a known fact from all of the archaeologists, the historians, the biblical scholars. It is a known fact that black people and Africans are two different types of people. It's no different than like a Mexican and a Puerto Rican and a Cuban are all three different types of people. Is Brother Kwame racist for making this video? No. I'm just sharing facts and proving according to history and the Bible that black people and Africans are two different sets of people. And this is also my way of reaching out to the so-called conscious community of black men claiming to be Africans, picking up these cultures, these African cultures, that's satanic. This is my way of reaching out to you to inform you to just let that stuff go and turn and come back to the Bible. Now, if you want to go reach out to an African or reach out to a European and teach them the word of God, that's okay if they're willing to receive you. But to go and join forces with those people and take up and practice their cults and participate in their culture, I'm scared for you, because God is going to judge you for that. And a lot of y'all walking around talking about some of the black women is God. How can a black woman or a woman period be God, and she needs a man to have a baby? And also the determination of the seed between a man and a female is a man. So how in the world possible can a black woman be God? Stop worshiping the black woman because she's not God. None of us are God, but we're our little gods. We're little gods, not the most high God. But that's a discussion for another topic or another video. I'm gonna go ahead and end this video. I pray that you all have been edified. And with that being said, Shalom.